Hey y'all, this is Ash. I will be reviewing and discussing the Final Fantasy XV book called The Dawn of the Future. Now, if you plan to read this book for funsies, you are going to be thoroughly confused and not like this book. But if you love the story and DLC from the game Final Fantasy XV, then you will like, enjoy, or even love this continuation. I will be placing this video in two sections. My feelings of the book as a whole, then the second part of actual discussion of the book with the game. I will also need to clarify that I will try to keep this limited to spoilers, but it is pretty difficult to not do so since this is based off and around the game. So if you have been warned if you decide to proceed. When reading this book, you need to keep in mind that this was originally designed to be DLC, so it was written very differently. This book was broken down into 4 sections. In this one specific section, the writing was not well written. The depiction and explanations of the scenes with the situations was not very clear. But we also have to keep in mind that this book is also being translated to English, so the grammar will at times not be correct. Each section is specifically designed to build up a clear reason on the ending. It is specifically broken down on these 4 characters: Arden, Aranea, Lunafreya, and Noctis. Again, if you've played the game or watched the cutscenes, I watched all the gameplay, along with the animes and DLC, you will get a deeper breakdown of these characters' actions, thoughts, and responses to the circumstances provided to them in this book. If you watched Arden's anime and played his DLC, his section of the book is practically word for word with just a little more explanations on the scenes and his reasons of turning as the villain. As you proceed with these sections though, it does get less and less words or scenes specifically pulled from the game and extras. For those who know the ending provided to us in 2016 and plan to read this addition to the story, it does in the end have a different ending than what was provided originally. I originally thought this book was going to be a form of a continuation of their story, in like death or something else, but this was basically an alternate ending for what I am understanding. Now don't freak out completely, the ending is actually just as powerful, if not in some sections preferred, for what was described of these scenes, and honestly a more intense ending in some ways. But at the same time, without this added information provided in either an extra DLC or even anime, if they would have done it, would have been a little confusing at times. But if I got more of this story, I would not have been upset at all. I always love additional lore. Overall, I completely enjoyed this read, especially for the continuation of the story for Final Fantasy XV, since I felt we didn't get enough previously. If you don't know at least some details of the storyline and then you are reading this book, you'll be very disappointed. Whew, that was difficult to not give at least some kind of spoilers, but I think I did pretty well. Now on to the comparison of book versus the game, DLC, movie, and animes. Wow, that's a lot. I have to be honest, I knew a small chunk about Final Fantasy XV. Now, this is because the movie came out around the time Joe and I dated, and then the game was out when we were married. I absolutely love the movie for the story, graphics, and well, good company. Unfortunately, I did not backseat game with Joe because my previous boss was not kind, and I couldn't take off. But I did help him with the final chapters with my amazing, handy-dandy guidebook. But fast forward to a book coming out on a game that I found intriguing, I just had to watch and learn as much as I could in less than 2 weeks of this book release. So I did. The first section is Arden's Viewpoint. It starts off with Noctis being pulled into the crystal, which works perfectly for the last section, Section 4 of Noctis, Awakening, but we will get to that. Arden's section was nearly word for word at one point. For those who have not seen for a while or not watched his DLC or anime, this could be a refresher or interesting to learn about. For me, I found it slightly difficult to get through because it was almost scene for scene at one point. But I did thoroughly enjoy the extra information I could not gather from what I watched, like a deeper understanding of the Scourge and how it truly affects people in time as daemons. the reason of pure hatred Arden had toward his brother Sumnus, and at one point, Era too, over time. I really liked Sumnus and Arden's deep chess-like discussions on how they should rule as a king over insomnia. Gave me very similar Professor and Magneto discussions with deep thoughts on how the world should be handled. Then, Sumnus marking Arden as a non-fit king due to being infected with the Scourge, which was gifted to him by the gods to heal others. You see Sumnus betray Arden and Era to the point that he goes so far as to kill Era, so she could not inform the people of the crystal and the god's choice of the rightful king, and so far as to erase Arden from history. Arden is then forever marked as adagium and then sent to Angelgard to live forever alone and with just the Scourge, his memories, and thoughts to torture him for forever. In time, he is broken free from Angelgard by the Imperials so they can use him as a weapon of mind control, basically, and to advance their match tech. Because Arden's bloodline was the original calling of the gods, and crystal, but is now not, due to Sumnus. So much information. We fast forward to now, where Noctis is born in the image of Sumnus, and Lunafreya is born in the image of the first oracle, Era. Like, literally mind blown. And then I was like, that makes sense. I wondered why they looked so close in the videos. I liked that extra oomph to the story. Section 2 takes place after the fall of Altissia from Leviathan the Hydradian. We are now in the seat of Aranea when she is with Biggs and Wedge are all cleaning up the area and saving the civilians in Altissia. They then move into another area and you get the addition of a child named Sol and her story combining. In the game, you see Sol when Noctis awakes, but in this book, she is a side character to Luna in Section 3. Honestly, I still was not a huge fan of this section on Aranea. The writing on this section was not well done, and it felt like a big filler chapter. The humor I did not find appealing, and the action sequences were cool, but they were not well described and felt kinda jumpy. I did push through though, because I had a feeling it would be a part of the continuing story somehow, and I was right to continue. Luna's section did not have much pulled from her story because after she died in Altissia, that was it. We do get a small part of her talks with Noctis when she is under the sea and is in a field of flowers giving her last few words to her love. Luna then awakens from this now dream to being at a gravesite, and at this point, a little over 10 years has passed since her death by Arden in Altissia. Noctis is still in the crystal at this exact time. She falls into a road and nearly gets run over by a now adult Sol on her motorcycle called Regina, and they have to outrun a large daemon who is chasing after Lunafreya. She reconnects with Umbra and provides a journal to him to give to Noctis when he eventually awakens. Ooh, game part. Sol and Luna, over time, are fighting daemons and basically become sidekicks in their travels so they can save Aranea and Noctis. Luna in time comes to realize since her awakening, she cannot just heal like an oracle, but realizes she has received another gift of being able to receive the Scourge from those infected. Exactly the same way Arden was originally destined to do of healing those of the Scourge, but now Luna is assigned this path by Bahamut, who also wants her to kill Arden. Luna in helping Sol's rescue of her adopted mother, Aranea, Luna takes the Scourge from Aranea to save her from falling into the path of Daemon over time. Because of this, Luna has now placed herself one step closer to becoming a daemon herself. Like, I literally was shocked on that turn of events. But it also made sense since Arden struggled to contain the Scourge in him, but Luna had physical changes, not just a mental battle. Well, this is juicy stuff. I have to continue. I feel a build-up for Noctis, though. See, I wasn't wrong here. Noctis is the next and final section. Honestly, this chapter was kind of overwhelming. It comes to a point where everything is met up together of the story, and it's changing to an alternate ending, yet pulling a few lines and scenes of what you already know from the DLCs, the game, the animes. It was basically a mental battle to depict what was happening, but yet not recall what did happen in very similar scenes. This was rough, but in the end, still really good and juicy for another ending. We get an understanding of Noctis's time in the crystal. Noctis basically receives a history lesson of the beginning of the Chosen Kings to the gods, the crystal knowing all, Bahamut the all-powerful for being everywhere but nowhere, and then Noctis's path to be the final king line of Sumnus. Noctis then awakens in Engelgard, which is where Adagium or Arden was placed to die as an immortal soul. He reconnects with Umbra, who is a dog that has helped keep Luna and Noctis's communication for their overtime relationship that was currently still halted. Umbra provides a notebook from Luna expressing her current travels with Sol, how she is safe, of her concerns of this new gift she has received, and lastly, what she feels she is not destined to complete. Obviously, Noctis has to go after her. Noctis then gets off the island and runs into Sol. She catches him up on what he has missed these past 10 plus years and explains how Luna and his trio of friends have been waiting for him to awaken. She also catches him up on the current scenery being so dark. At this point, the connections to what we already know or have seen from the game has drastically slowed, if not stopped, which could be good and bad, and this is where the mental battle in my mind starts going haywire. Noctis at this point has decided that no matter what his calling is, he does not want any more suffering, and he is still willing to complete his path, but with not a single additional life sacrificed like Luna Freya. Noctis is reunited with Gladio, Ignis, and Propto, and has noticed how much they have advanced in their skills. He then meets with Arden, and they have an almost mental chess match and decide for Arden to be the king and get the backing of the 6 gods. But their final fight, all together yet separately, to destroy Bahamut and for Eos to be free of its path and future, no longer controlled by a leader who tosses them aside like a piece of garbage after they are used to his will. Once the world had become cleansed, Gentiana, the goddess of ice, blesses Luna Freya to awaken from slumber so that Noctis and her can have a future together in the new dawn. You also get a few paragraphs of King Regis being so happy of the path now taken. Y'all, I nearly cried. I'm also biased to Sean Bean being King Regis's voice in the movie of Kingsglaive, so I love this last few pages of reading. You get everything you wanted for their ending of peace, happiness, friends that didn't die, and love. Wow. Does this whole book provide more meat to the story and yet give you a fulfilling love ending? Even though I had a section of repeat and a section of difficulty reading of descriptions, the final build-up was extremely well thought for a twist and all these little clues coming together in the end to make a really beautiful alternate ending. Or I could only assume is an alternate ending, but I'm pretty sure it was. I was concerned at first of this book's direction, but by the end, I was thoroughly intrigued on the comparisons and everything we had then in 2016 to what we also have now as some final, fulfilling chapters.
So you.
What did you think of Final Fantasy 15? Would you have preferred this alternate ending the book gives compared to the game? I mean, it was originally scripted to be the true ending. What was your favorite line from one of the characters? I had quite a few, but one of my favorite lines was actually in this book from Noctis, saying, and I quote on page 369, Noctis looked upon the Blade Keeper and said, "We may be foolish and repeat our mistakes, but we do not stand still. Mankind is always moving forward." Let us know in the comments below your thoughts. Show some support by liking and subscribing with notifications turned on. Don't forget to also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, y'all, stay nerdy and keep binging.